Today is Austria's National Day, and I thought it's a great opportunity to share some of my thoughts about the Austrian stock market, investing in publicly listed companies here. Yes, there is a stock market in Austria. I know it's not the most famous or popular out there, so maybe this video adds some value or some visibility. Obviously, this is not financial advice. Do your own research, just sharing my thoughts and ideas. As you know, I'm a real estate investor and landlord, so I typically invest in those asset classes, but as the market has been falling a lot, I started obviously dipping my toes into stocks and equities, and I happened to find a lot of value not far from where I am. But as I said, I have a home bias. I do invest a lot now. I just started investing again since the prices have been more attractive, but a lot close by, so Austrian companies, German companies, European equities in general. In the past, the US has outperformed, but yeah, maybe this will be the same in the future and I'll turn out to be wrong, but I do like some companies here, so let's check them out. I mean, Austria, by the way, is not the place for high-flying growth names or even a place of huge growth at all. But at the same time, we don't have a lot of those zombie companies. We don't have like the Snapchats or the Pelotons or these kind of things, at least not in the public market. So we do have some high-flying startups and tech companies, but they're not listed, at least not in Austria. So we do have a very conservative investor base here in Austria. So I feel like real estate, gold, savings accounts, these are the typical investments of a typical Austrian. But we also have to consider there are not as many tax benefits in Austria for stock investing by individuals. So we don't have 401ks or stock Roth IRAs or these kind of things, or these beautiful things that they might have in the US. If there are, I wouldn't know, at least. But yeah, so we don't have this big stock investing culture, which obviously leads to maybe less interest and less value increase of the stocks, but at the same time, you might be able to you usually find bargains where nobody's looking. So maybe this is how I look at it. And as a landlord, I really like stable investments where I have a stable inflow, steady cash flow, dividends, and these kind of things. I care less about, obviously I want the stock to go up eventually, but I'm also fine holding something and knowing it's going to give me some returns every year. And I feel like in the Austrian stock exchange, you definitely have these kind of companies. So the main index in Austria is called the ATX. It was founded in 1991. Who cares when it was founded? But it started with 1,000 points in 1991, so around 30 years ago. And it contains the largest 20 companies in Austria, the listed companies. And if you invested 1,000 euros back then, you would now have around 60k 30 years later. The S&P has definitely outperformed, but this return I just mentioned, it's by the way it's considering all the dividends, and so it's not just the index increase. It's been 6.4%. This was last year, so around 6% per year in the last 30 years. Having said that, the last 5 years were not really good for the index, especially because of the recent drop. And there is something about the Austrian stock index which is different than many other indices. It's a price index. Basically, there are other indices which are performance indices. So the DAX, the German index, it's a performance index, so it includes or considers all the dividends in the index, whereas the ATX index is a price index, so it does not consider them. If you want to compare the DAX and the ATX, you have to look at the so-called ATX total return index. Obviously, it shows a much nicer performance than the ATX, so looking at the ATX is always pretty misleading in my opinion, and I found this out quite late. But if you look at the ATX total return, obviously it looks much nicer because dividends are a big part of the return in Austrian companies. ATX companies are big dividend payers, which is also why I like a lot of them. Currently, I started investing in it because the ATX is down around 30% from its recent peak, along with all the other indices, and along with, the grim economic outlook. So Austria is usually, the ATX is usually, in my opinion, like more sensitive because a lot of companies in the index are cyclical. So there are like financials, construction companies, oil companies, some other industry, but a lot of industry companies, let's say. And so I'll share my favorite stocks, which I actually started investing in on today's national holiday, the Nationalfeiertag. One way you can easily invest in the Austrian stock market, if you don't know what's going on here, or if you cannot pronounce even the name of our companies like Schöller Bleckmann, Wienerberger, or what else do we have? Mayr-Melnhof, or these kind of names, and you're just want to invest in Austria. Obviously, an easy way is always to buy an ETF that covers Austria. There are multiple ones. You can choose any. For example, there's one by iShares. It's not an advertisement, no financial advice, just one that I happen to know. And if you scroll down on the ETF, obviously it's super, for me, significant to see the average PE of the components of the ATX ETF, so all the companies of the ATX, the average PE, price to earnings ratio, is around 7. That's pretty low. Obviously you got to do your research, check why this is. It's not always like cheap when it appears that way. Sometimes it is, but often it's not. But it's still significant. And then price to book is below 1. And it's pretty interesting. Anyway, and then the dividend yield has been higher than 4%. Now I can also share 6 or 7 companies that I personally am looking at, Austrian companies, and I started investing in some of them as the prices are dropping. Obviously, it's not always a good idea to invest in individual companies, so let's see if I even end up beating the index. We will see. But yeah, it's not financial advice, and you should always do your own research. I'm just gonna talk on the very surface because each of them, obviously I could do a separate video explaining why I invested in them. But yeah, let's check them out. One is Wienerberger. It's a very traditional old company which is in brick manufacturing. It's one of the leading brick manufacturers worldwide. They have a very low PE. I think it's around 5, depending on which earnings you think, because obviously it's a cyclical name. So if you believe construction, it shows construction is obviously activities coming down because of higher costs, high interest rates, and all these kind of things. But I think this has been priced in now. And for somebody who's patient, I don't expect this to take off immediately, but I actually believe in the mid to long term outlook for this company, especially also because they're working on innovative building solutions, which are looking very promising. And many regions in the world are also looking to use more robust construction techniques, like in the US, to use more bricks and these kind of things. This is why I started investing in Wienerberger. Another company I'm looking at currently, actually started investing already, is Mayr-Melnhof. They're offering a lot of packaging solutions, sustainable packaging solutions, so away from plastic, which is a trend that I've observed and I think is going to even intensify in the future. They're making packaging solutions for groceries, pharma, and other industries. And they made some really nice acquisitions, so not just growing organically, but also inorganically. So generally, I think Mayr-Melnhof was a good investment. Actually, Wienerberger announced a stock buyback program, and Mayr-Melnhof, I read, which was a nice indication that the chairman, I think, or one of the management members, has invested a significant amount in the company. Doesn't mean anything. It's just an indication. It doesn't mean it's a great company automatically. Yeah. So, and then there's one other company I started buying. It's called Erste Bank. Happens to be the bank I'm a customer from after switching banks 2 times. Not only am I a happy customer, but also I love their online banking. It feels like using a fintech really, maybe even better. I would like to say stuff about its balance sheet and it's great, but honestly, analyzing banks for me is, I can't do it. I just see they're a really reliable dividend payer. They have a PE of around 5 again. The earnings can change. They're my favorite bank. I think they will benefit from increasing interest rates, and I wanted some exposure to the financial industry. So, I mean, I'm looking into buying financials ETFs as well, but here I kind of want to pick the best banks, and they have no Russia exposure like some other banks in Austria. And in general, I think Erste Bank is a great investment for me. You can obviously check it out and see if it's for you as well. There's another bank, for example, I'm very hesitant about, but they have a really low PE of 1 or 2. It's Raiffeisen Bank, it's called. But they have a lot of Russia exposure, so this uncertainty is huge. But if they somehow overcome this, or I don't know, to be honest, what they're going to do. The CEO recently said it takes some time because it's a huge bank. It's not like a small sausage restaurant which you can just sell. So let's see what they do with it. But I keep a close look at them to see what's gonna happen here. Another company I'm looking at is FACC. It's a aircraft piece manufacturer in Upper Austria. They produce a lot of parts of aircraft for Airbus and Boeing and other manufacturers. They have been suffering a lot, and you can see that in the stock price during the COVID crisis, of course. Now I think 2022 will be their first profitable year again. Seems that they have a good order flow, so let's see how that goes. These are a few companies that I either look at very intensively or I already started investing. 2 other companies I can mention. One, I haven't invested in yet because I have no idea about this business model, and I have to either research a lot or just stay away, because it's important to always know what you own. One is, it's called Lenzing. They're a fiber manufacturer, and I have like zero idea about fiber manufacturing, so I have to like research and everything. Stock fell from above 100 to around 40 to its COVID lows. They have been saying that they have elevated inventories. The consumer has been weak in this segment. Apparently, demand has been coming down. They're very energy intense in their manufacturing, so they had been suffering. Now that energy prices are moderating, I mean, it's been only a few weeks, but they have come down. Boy, they've come down a lot, which is why I'm actually also investing in a lot of industry companies like this. I can make another video like BASF in Germany, like companies that have been suffering a lot because of this energy pessimism which was going on. Still going on, but I think there are signs of relief. So Lenzing, anyway, I will probably do some more research and see if this is an investment I want to look at. And then there is voestalpine, which I stayed away from for now, but the PE is just so crazy low. I mean, it's a steel manufacturer. I have again not so much idea, but it's super cyclical, and I have to just check if this is a good entry point or if I'm catching a falling knife. But voestalpine is something I'm also going to be looking at. I haven't invested anything in it yet, so maybe I'll end up staying away from both. So this was my contribution to Austria's National Day. I hope this was interesting and it maybe draws some attention and interest for the Austrian stock market. And I wish you a great holiday, fellow Austrians, and a great day for everybody else. Bye.